Michael, these new polls out yesterday show that President Trump is trailing former VP Biden in Wisconsin and Arizona, and they are neck and neck in Ohio and Texas. These are the states where this whole thing gets decided. When you look at this, what does it tell you?
Tells me that the president's campaign has a reason and a right to be concerned, legitimately concerned. It explains a lot why you see the president doing this sort of macho man thing. You know, I am the law and the order president, to try to shift the narrative away from the trifecta of problems he has: COVID-19, the economy now with 43 million people unemployed, and of course, the civil unrest that's surrounding the murder of Mr. Floyd. So from a political standpoint, if you're inside the RNC, you're now worried about your Senate, your down ballot races, governors, state houses, et cetera. All of this is connected around these three events, which the Republicans have not only just been tone deaf, but out of step with where the country is moving.
And that civil unrest is also tied to social injustice. It's tied to COVID. It's tied to unemployment. Cornel, your thoughts?
My thoughts is this. I think we're seeing something different happen in the country. And when I look at that very diverse crowd of young people out there protesting, Stephanie, they look a lot like the base and core of the expanded Obama coalition. And many of them who didn't participate in 2016, they seem energized. And the other thing in the polling is this. You have the majority of Americans now, well, 50% of Americans now saying that race relations will be a factor in how and their presidential vote, and 60% of Americans under 35 say that race relations will be a factor in their vote. There's a consciousness about race and race relations that are taken to the forefront right now. And the other part I think is important in this is also in the Monmouth poll, you see a majority of whites now understanding that police brutality is real and that African Americans are in fact treated differently. So people who've been on the sidelines on these issues, you can now make allies on this issue. So I think there is a consciousness that is changing about race relations and police brutality in this country. And one quick note: if Donald Trump is in a toss-up in Texas, Chairman, the RNC should be panicking.
Is what you're saying, you know, the issue we had heard was that it was going to be tough for VP Biden, Cornel, to energize young people. But the fact that so many of those young people are out there, you think that translates to votes for Biden?
I think we have to be careful because remember, Stephanie, many of these young people either sat out in 2016 or they protested their vote. And then they're literally out in the streets protesting now against Hillary Clinton. I think if VP Biden is being aggressive about addressing issues of racial profiling. And by the way, racial discrimination and racial profiling wasn't a secondary issue consideration for these young people in 2016, and it's a forefront issue now. I think they have to be aggressive about pursuing injustice. And who he picked for VP, I think, matters more now than it did a month ago.
Secretary Castro, Texas is your state. What do you think about that?
Well, as you can imagine, I've been glad to see several polls now that have showed Vice President Biden basically tied with President Trump here in Texas. And, you know, for many of the reasons that have been mentioned, look, there couldn't have been a stronger contrast a couple of days ago when you had President Trump order people to be tear gassed so that he could do a photo op and misuse our American military for basically his political campaign, totally unable to unite us as a country, not even trying, not even going on television like any normal president would to try and unite the country. And then you had Joe Biden in Philadelphia delivering a speech about bringing this country together. People understand that Joe Biden is a leader who can begin to heal the country. And as Cornel mentioned, he actually proposed solutions to how we can improve this situation and reform policing. He talked about banning chokeholds. He talked about a model use of force standard. He talked about police accountability and challenged Congress to do something about it. That is leadership. And more people here in the suburbs, especially of Texas, that used to vote Republican, are switching over to Democrat.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.